Hello everyone, thank you for joining us this evening for MOCA's Living Well meeting on Finding Joy. I'm so happy so many of you are able to join us tonight. I'm sorry we can't meet in person as we usually do, but I'm glad that you're able to join this webinar. Tonight we have special guest Carla Heater with us. She's an ovarian cancer survivor and a motivational speaker, and she will be talking about finding joy during uncertain and difficult times, which we all know our MOCA supporters feel very regularly, but especially now. We have been planning this meeting for months, but it's become even more relevant in the last couple of days. After Carla's presentation, you'll have a chance to ask questions via your chat box, and we'll be happy to moderate those. So thanks again for joining us for tonight's meeting, which is sponsored in part by Tesaro's Not on My Watch campaign.
Good evening. My name is Carla Heater, and I'm going to do a presentation for you tonight called Finding Joy. When we planned to do this presentation, we were not in the midst of COVID-19, so I think this is really a relevant topic for now and something we all need to hear in this unprecedented time in our history. I almost compare the COVID-19 dilemma with a cancer diagnosis, because it's something we never imagined would be a part of our life and really something we never wanted in our life. So I'm going to talk a little bit about happiness, a little bit about resilience, and share with you 4 or 5 I think solid tips, all scientifically proven, to help you find joy and happiness in your life. Happiness is something we all want. It's something we're chasing. It's something we want for our kids. It's sort of the American dream. It's really, I believe, a moment by moment issue. Sometimes we think I had a good day or I had a bad day, but sometimes it's a moment by moment thing. I really believe that happiness is an inside job. In other words, it's right here. It's how we think. It's a little bit about our attitude. It's how our brain processes the world around us. I oftentimes say happiness sits on our shoulders. 90% of our long-term happiness is predicted not by our environment or the world around us, but how our brain processes that world. So it really is an inside job. It's kind of how we think upstairs. I love the notion, the quote that's been quoted, I think, both by Henry Ford and Mary Kay Ash: if you think you can, you can, and if you think you can't, you're right. I truly believe that our mind is really, really powerful, and we can make a decision how we're gonna deal with things and cope with things, and the kind of day we're gonna have. I want to qualify that by saying that I truly believe that there are a lot of people out there, myself included, who deal with from time to time with feeling blue or sad or depressed or overwhelmed. I think depression is a very, very serious illness, and so when I say if you think you can, you can. If you think you can't, you're right. I in no way, shape, or form want to make light of the issue that there are many, many people who deal very seriously with depression. I have a history of that in my family, and so that notion of if you think you can doesn't just mean, let everything go and be happy, because it's not always that easy. So why resilience and why happiness? I want to just share a little story with you about an incident that happened in my life about 5 years ago. I was serving on the senior team at the Buffalo Hospital as executive director of the hospital foundation, and one of our much loved physicians, Dr. Eric Lefebvre, went out on a Saturday morning for a motorcycle ride, first ride on the Harley Davidson that he had wished for his entire life, and actually had a golf cart turn in front of him and was killed on impact, and left behind a beautiful family with 4 kids. And it was really, really devastating for us as a team and as a hospital. And so that was really hard for us. And then literally 3 months to the day, or 90 days to the day later, his partner and one of our pediatricians, Dr. Glenn Pfister, completed suicide in our hospital chapel by hanging. that was a devastating day for all of us. And it was sort of a wake-up call. It was sort of like our 911, or our 911, I should say, not 911. Like what is that about, and how did we miss that? And how do we know if the people we know and love are happy, and how happy are we? And so we did a lot of studying around resilience, around compassion fatigue, around happiness, around joy, and did some work with Duke University and learned a number of things. One of the things is that that resilience is something we need to work on a daily basis. It's the ability to become strong, healthy, or successful again after something really difficult happens. COVID-19, a cancer diagnosis, a divorce, a major move, all kinds of things in our life. How do we bounce back when really difficult things happen? It's really a function of our ability to cope and have the resources to be healthy and well after something difficult happens. Resilience is not about avoiding stress and difficult things in our life. That's not going to happen. I'm here to tell you we're going to have difficult things happen in our life, and it's part of life, and it's part of, I think, what makes us who we are. We're going to have grief. We're going to have sadness. We're going to have a range of emotions and adversity and loss in our lives, but how we deal with those really is the important thing, and how we the tools that we have in our toolbox to be resilient and to be happy and find joy and meaning and purpose in life after those difficult things happen. We used to believe that resilience was something that you were born with or not, and we really have learned that that's not true. Yes, indeed, we maybe were raised in an atmosphere or by someone or some people who helped us and gave us resiliency tools and the things that we need to bounce back. But it's really, you're not born resilient or not. It's sort of like weightlifting. It's something we need to do on a regular basis. If you're like me, you'd like to go to the health club once and be fit. Doesn't work. I've been trying that. So resilience is like working out. The more we work on that and the more tools we put in our toolbox, the stronger we will be. And so that's really, really important. One of the tools that I'm going to share with you today, after I take a little sip here, I talk about 90 miles an hour, and so sometimes I just have to refuel. The first tool I want to share with you is something so simple you'll go, well, yeah, Carla, everybody knows that. But the one I want to share with you first is practicing random acts of kindness. We know, and it has been scientifically proven, that doing an act of kindness produces the single most reliable momentary increase in well-being of any activity or exercise that has ever been tested. This has been scientifically proven. It has been scientifically proven that if you do something nice for someone, it makes you happy for 2 weeks. Very seriously, I don't care if it's a quick phone call, if it's paying for somebody's coffee. I don't care if it's complimenting someone in front of you in the grocery store, or whatever that is. But doing something nice for someone makes a difference in your happiness for as much as 2 weeks. It makes a difference in their happiness for a day, but it'll make a difference in your happiness for 2 weeks. So why wouldn't we do something nice for somebody every day? I mean, I don't care if you're on the stay-at-home plan like all of us are right now. We can still do nice things for people, and we are hearing every single day right now about people doing nice things for other people. It's absolutely overwhelming. I think if one thing happens after COVID-19, it'll be that we have found our kindness bone again as Americans, because people are really going above and beyond to help other people be comfortable and to do what they need to do to be kind to people. And so I want you to put that in your little toolbox and know that if you do something nice for someone, it will make them happier for a day, but it'll make you happier for as much as 2 weeks. So if you're somebody that deals with a little bit of sadness, if you feel blue from time to time, if you're like me after a cancer diagnosis, you wake up every day just feeling sometimes really overwhelmed, like, is this really, what's happening to me? And so doing something nice for someone is sort of gets us out of our own stuff and helps us focus on other people, and that's really important. So put random acts of kindness in your toolbox for happiness, joy, and resilience. The other tool I want to share with you is probably in my mind, one of the most important things I've learned on this journey, and that's the 3 good things tool. So what that is I'm going to ask you to do this by yourself. For you to do it, I'm going to ask you to engage your family and friends and anybody else you know, as many people as you can, to write down 3 good things every night in the last 2 waking hours of the day before you go to bed, and do this for 2 weeks. So write down 3 good things every night in the last 2 waking hours of the day before you go to bed, and do this for 2 weeks. It has been scientifically proven to make you happier for as long as 6 months. So mark the calendar, do it again in 5 months, 6 months, and it'll make you happier. It's really about focusing on the positive. And I don't know if you have anybody in your life who is really negative, the kind of people that walk in the room and stink the place up, and we know they took a shower, but it's just their attitude, it's their demeanor, it's just sort of their focus on life. And so I want to also remind you, if you have somebody like that in your life, to move away from them. You don't have to move out of the house if they're living at your house. Well, maybe. No. Anyway, but think seriously about that, because we all have somebody like that. Have you ever spent time with someone and you're all done and you leave and you go home and you're like, oh, they like literally suck the life out of me? And a lot of times it's about their attitude. It's about negativity. And if we can focus on the positive, it makes us healthier people. There is so much literature, science, and research that's been done around focusing on the positive. And this little tool can help you get there. So it's so very simple. Write down 3 good things the last 2 waking hours of every day before you go to bed, and do this for 2 weeks. Put a notepad by your bed, or 8 o'clock every night. I don't know, whatever your ritual is. I have certain things that I do in the evening, and I have a couple nights where I have certain shows that I watch. And Ron and I almost always watch the 9 o'clock news because he gets up at 4 and goes to work early. And so make it a ritual that you do. And for some people, figuring out what's positive in their life is really, really difficult. I right now in 30 seconds could list you probably 50 things. I can see you, I can hear you. The sun is shining outside at my house today. I have an incredible husband. I have my sister who's my best friend. I could go on and on and on and on. And I won't do that. But for some people, it's really difficult. My husband, who I told you is a very incredible man, has a hard time with that. He kind of comes from a long line of negativity. And he, when we did this together for the very first time 4 or 5 years ago, I would say, honey, we would literally sit at the table in the evening and we would talk about what our 3 good things were. And I could rattle all these things off, and he'd like think and think and think. And he'd say, well, I didn't get a flat tire on the way home today. And I'm like, wow, that's really good. Kind of a, reverse negative, but that's good. And then he would think and think and think. And he just would have a hard time with that. And so be aware of that. And so sometimes I would say to him, I'd go like this and I'd point at me and he'd say, you got a new blouse. I'd say, no, honey, I didn't get a new blouse, but what about me? Am I one of your good things? And then, of course, every night I was one of his good things because he was afraid not to say that. Anyway, so think about that. And it does take a little bit of practice because, and your good thing might literally be that you waved at the mail carrier today and they smiled back at you. I mean, these are not rocket science things. They're not a Maserati and they're not dropping 40 pounds. They're just the everyday things that make us happy. Talk to my daughter on the phone today. Whatever those things are, highlight them, call them out, write down 3 good things at the end of the day, and I guarantee you it will make a difference in your thinking. I still have friends now and then when I say, well, this happened or that happened, they'll be, well, is that one of your 3 good things today? And I'm like, yeah, as a matter of fact, it is. So think about practicing 3 good things. That is a powerful, powerful tool for you to do. Maybe you are part of a support group, or maybe you're part of a walking women who walk in your neighborhood, or I don't know, whatever it is, but do it with other groups of people, because then you begin to talk about positive things and share those things with other people. And that's really, really important too. And just like that with random acts of kindness too, when you hear the great things that other people are doing, it makes a difference in your happiness. And so share those stories. I mean, sometimes We don't care to tell people the nice things we do. And by the way, when you do random acts of kindness anonymously, they have an even greater effect on your happiness, which I think is really interesting. That has been scientifically proven too. So back to the 3 good things. We can't do it today, but I like to do things like if you rent a movie at Redbox, slip a $5 bill in it when you put it back and say snacks are on me. Or right now you could put a little something in the mailbox for the mail carrier, or there's a lot of different things that you could do, even as on our stay-at-home plan. So think about that. So random acts of kindness and 3 good things. You can see I'm flipping through my notes here. So the next piece I want to talk about is gratitude work. I think that I think cancer makes us grateful people because we sort of all of a sudden realize what's important in life, and it's people. That's it. That's all. I think cancer gives us the gift of making decisions in our life about what's really important and being grateful for things. And so it's been scientifically proven when you write a gratitude letter to someone that it makes you happier. And so we all have somebody in our life who has been important to us, who's made an impact in our life, who maybe through our cancer diagnosis really come to the call, or maybe it's somebody we knew in our earlier years, or maybe it's your daughter or your mom or your spouse, or I don't know who it is, but when's the last time you said, you really have made a difference in my life? And we don't do that often enough. We need to literally step out and let people know the difference they've made. And it also is important to do that in writing, but it's even more important to do that face to face. So the third tool that I want to ask you to do is I want to ask you to write someone a gratitude letter. And I want to tell you a story about a gratitude letter that I wrote, probably the most difficult one I've ever written in my life. And it was to my mother. My mom and I have had a very, very estranged and very difficult relationship my entire life. My mom passed away about 3 years ago at Christmas time, and I had not seen her for probably 6 years before her death. And I learned that she was in hospice and dying, and made a decision that I was going to go see my mom. And I had made a decision many years before that I would never see her again because I always had so much pain when I would see my mom. It was never a great thing. I get a little verklempt even thinking about it. So my sister called me and said that my mom was on her final days, and I made a decision, even after all the pain and difficulty that we had experienced, that I would go see her. And one of my best friends, who's Dr. Corey Martin, that I do a lot of this resilience work with, encouraged me to write her a thank you letter. And I said, Corey, I cannot think of one thing good. All memories of my mom, childhood or otherwise, are not great. And I said, I can't do that. I know it's a great thing, but just don't ask me to do this. And so I spent a day or whatever where he would meet me in the hallway and say, did you write that letter yet to your mom? And I said no. And finally at the end of the day, when she was very close to her death, I made a decision that I would do that. And I sat down and I thought about my mom, and I realized that she had given me a really great sense of humor. She was super funny. I'm one of the funniest people you'll ever meet. and she was so funny. And so I thanked her for giving me a sense of humor. My mom also had a love for animals, and I absolutely adore animals. I have 4 dogs in my house and 4 horses and a couple llamas, and I think animals, particularly house animals, really make a difference in our quality of life. And so I thanked her for that. And she also gave me a really great work ethic. My mom was a hard worker. I mean, a very hard worker. And she did that for us, and I know that. And so I wrote this letter to my mom and told her those things. And I took it to see my mom the first night that my sister had let me know that she was not doing well. And it just didn't really pan out that I would read it to her. There were other people there, and it just didn't pan out. And so I thought I would never see my mom again. And she was still there 3 or 4 days later. And I went back and I spent the day with my sister and my mom, just the 3 of us. And I had this gratitude letter with me. It was about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and my mom was literally lingering. And we just kept thinking, that she was maybe afraid or had unfinished business. And my sister and I started talking about that, and she said, well, have you forgiven Mom? And I said, well, I have, but a couple years ago I unforgave her because she said something super, super painful to me. And I said, but I wrote her a gratitude letter, and I have it along. And my sister said, well, why don't you read it to her? And I took a deep breath like I did just now, and I went into the bedroom and I knelt down by my mom and I read her this gratitude letter. And I'm here to tell you what, it made such a difference in my life. My mom, I could say I don't know if she heard it, but I think she did hear it, even though she was not responsive. But it made such a huge difference in my life because I was able to see the positive. I was able to focus on what was good with my mom, and also to be able to, in those last moments of my mom's life, to have been able to thank her and to tell her I loved her and to tell her I forgave her. And that's big stuff. That's really big stuff, because how often does it happen that we lose someone and we have unfinished business? So I want you to think about that. It doesn't have to be someone like as tumultuous as my relationship was with my mom. Maybe it's just somebody who's really, really touched your heart and made a difference in your life, and you need to tell them. So write them a gratitude letter and do me a favor and either read it to them face to face or call them. That's really, really important, an important piece of this. I guarantee you it will make a difference in your relationship with them forever. So write a gratitude letter. I also want to share with you, if you ever want to see a really great video about how important this is, if you Google Soul Pancake, SOUL, Soul Pancake, and look for the video called The Science of Happiness. That video will make a difference in your life. And I know you will make a decision to express gratitude to someone. So think about a gratitude letter to someone you love. So as much as this gratitude letter is going to make a difference for the person you give it to, it really is a gift to yourself. When you express gratitude, it decreases depressive symptoms, it improves your psychological well-being, makes a difference in your memory, in your sleep patterns, in your immune system function. Did you hear that? Gratitude makes a difference. It improves your immune system function. It improves relationships, helps you with coping, emotional upheavals, all kinds of things. So really, writing a gratitude letter, as much as it'll be a gift to the person that you read it to or send it to, it's a gift to yourself as well. So do it for yourself if for no other reason. So the other tool I want to share with you is about social connections, and how ironic is that we are, or is this, that we are in this time of not being able to make social connections. And I have to tell you that the word social distancing is really hard for me. I wish we would call it physical distancing, because social connections are imperative to our health. We are hardwired for connections. As human beings, we need other people. And as much as we need to just be in their presence, we need the touch of other humans. That human touch is so incredibly important. Excuse me. So I want to talk a little bit about social connections and how important they are. And I want to talk a little bit about loneliness. We all think that loneliness is taboo. In other words, we think if you say that you are lonely, you are a loser. And that absolutely is not true. I am a very socially connected human being. I love people. I get my energy from people. I do like my alone time as well. But I know that we need the social connections. We need the physical touch. And so social connections are really, really important. I wish we could call it physical distancing and not social distancing. Anyway, we'll talk about that. Loneliness is incredibly harmful to your health. They say loneliness kills. And there are a lot of studies that say that it increases your chance of premature death by 50%. And so I want you to think serious about your social connections and your relationships and the people that you are involved with. At this time, in the midst of COVID, it's so much more difficult to be socially connected, but it is not impossible. We need to be on the phone, we need to be Skyping and Zooming and all kinds of things. It's not the same as physically being in touch, but there's great value and great benefit in connecting with other people. Did you know that being isolated or being lonely is equivalent to smoking 15 cigarettes a day? It's equivalent to smoking 15 cigarettes a day. That's how difficult or how dangerous it is for our health. They say that we'll die premature death. 5%, our chances of premature death increase by 5% due to air pollution. Obesity increases our risk of premature death by 20%. Alcohol increases our risk by 30%, and loneliness by 50%. So I'm so very serious about this whole social connection thing, because it's really important. I also want to say that Facebook makes it worse. I don't know about you, but I go on Facebook sometimes and I'm like, wow, Rox and Julie are doing something with Sonia. Like, what's that about? How come I wasn't invited? Or, wow, they're always so happy. Or, look how fit she is. Or, oh, if only I could be where she is in Italy. Or whatever it is. I want you just to think about that. How much time, and I, like a lot of Americans, am spending way too much time on social media right now. I want you to think about that and to try to balance that, because if you have 757 friends or 257 friends or 57 friends on Facebook, it's not a measure of how many friends you have. I'm here to tell you what, it is not a measure of how many friends you have. It's like how many times you take a selfie before you actually post it. That's the difficult part about doing this by Zoom or by video, is like, you're like, well, you know, what do I look like? And I got this little split in my hair right here. And we're just, that's who we are. We just are so worried all the time. I've done enough of Brene Brown's work lately and some other personal work that I have come to a place where I truly espouse and believe the notion that what you think of me is none of my business. And that's a hard place to get, because I've spent my whole life worrying about what you think of me, and if I'm too fat, and if this is wrong with me, and if I talk too fast, and if somebody finds out my mom never loved me, and all of those things, and all of that is no longer owns me. Because I love who I am, and that's a place we all need to get to. It's even a hard thing to say. I'm just learning to say that, but I'm really happy and comfortable in my own skin. So Facebook makes it worse. Don't, by any stretch of the imagination, think that if you're spending a lot of time on Facebook that you're really in touch with a lot of people and your friends and that kind of thing. The other thing that's really important is that you have a 4 a.m. friend. So who in your life do you have that you could call at 4 a.m. no matter what? I want you to think about that, and I oftentimes ask people to make a list of who they could call at 4 a.m. and then I'll ask them to make a list of who could call you at 4 a.m. Think about that. Who could you call at 4 a.m.? And then who could call you at 4 a.m.? I guarantee you those lists are very different. You're going to think of 1 or 2 people that you could call. Maybe some of you not thinking of even one person. And then all the people that could call you would be pretty exhaustive. There would be a lot of people that could call you. So I want you to think about who it is in your life that if you needed them at 4 in the morning, or needed to call someone because of a tragedy or some trauma, or just because you needed to talk because you really need to talk. Who is that? And let them know that you would like to be their 4 a.m. friend. Letting them know is really important. Interestingly enough, when we first started doing all this work after we lost both of the physicians, I went to bed one night, and I always plug my phone in at the kitchen counter on the island every night and go to bed. And we sleep with our bedroom door shut because we have dogs and they make noise at night and whatever. And so one night, I just believe it's a God thing. Personally, I believe this. I had my phone at my bedside. I had not had my phone at my bedside probably for years before this, and I haven't had it at my bedside since. But for some reason, I went back to the laundry room and I said, I'll just put my phone by the bed tonight. 3 a.m. in the morning, not 4, but 3 a.m. the phone rang, and it was my friend Patty, and her mom had passed away at North Memorial Hospital, and she was on her way home by herself, and she needed a friend. What are the chances that I would have my phone at my bed that night? Anyway, what the point is who is that person, or who are those people in your life that have your back? Like, who are the people that you can really depend on and that can depend on you? And do they know it? That is a really important piece of this, is to let people know that they are in your circle of 4 a.m. friends. So I want to share with you another video resource that is amazing. If you're have a computer or your laptop or your iPad or whatever, this will be one of the best videos you'll ever see, because it's the longest study of human behavior that's ever been done, and it's a 75-year study at Harvard University done by Robert Waldinger. I always want to call him Harvey Wallbanger. And he's not, he's Robert Waldinger. So if you go on YouTube or if you just Google What Makes a Good Life by Robert Waldinger, it's about a 12 or 15 minute video, and it is an amazing study that's been done with men, by the way, to find out what makes a good life. And I'm here to tell you what makes a good life. And it's people. It's good, solid relationships. I want you to look at that video, because it's one of the best videos I've ever watched that really makes the point that people are important in our life. Good, solid relationships are important. Conflict in our life is lethal, and so the relationships that are difficult, we kind of need to help figure those out a little bit, or if it's a marriage, they say that the conflict is harder on our health than the actual divorce is. Anyway, I would like you to consider watching that that video. It's called What Makes a Good Life, and it's by Robert Waldinger. That's a great tool. So we've talked about random acts of kindness. We've talked about 3 good things. We've talked about gratitude work, and we've talked about social connections. So I want to share a few parting thoughts, and then one more tool with you that I'm going to share that I think will make a difference for you. So my parting thoughts are that kindness wins. And I don't care if we're on the stay-at-home plan or what the situation is, but we can do and be kindness to people. I know it makes a difference in your health. Doing one single act of kindness makes a difference in your happiness for 2 weeks. So do something kind for someone every day. Focusing on the positive makes a difference. So the 3 good things tool is incredibly powerful. I really encourage you to practice the 3 good things, and start it today. Start it tonight, and do it for 2 weeks, and just take notice if it makes a difference in your happiness. Gratitude changes things. It's made a huge difference in my life. And I think it will in yours as well. And it is about thinking about what you're grateful for, but who in your life has really had an impact and has made a difference in your life. This will change your life, and it'll change someone else's life if you express this kind of gratitude. I really also want to encourage you to do it face to face if you can. And some of you will say, well, I don't know if I can because I'll cry, and that's okay. Tears are okay, and they are an emotion that for me is very healing. Relationships are key to health, happiness, and longevity. Relationships are key to health, happiness, and longevity. And so I want you to think about even in this stay-at-home time, and some of you may be in a place too where you are in the midst of treatments, and when your blood counts are low, you need to stay at home anyway. And so it does not mean you have to be socially isolated. But you might have to be the person to reach out. And sometimes we wait for other people to do that, but take the initiative to be the person to stay socially connected. It's really going to be up to you to do that. So the last tool I want to share with you is wonder and awe. I am going to share with you another video that I would ask you to consider watching, because I'm somebody who really loves the outdoors. I love nature. I love travel. I love beautiful things. I love a fresh blooming flower. I really take great pleasure in the beauty around me, and I notice it, and I am thoughtful about noticing it and being in it. And so wonder and awe is really about noticing what we've been given in terms of our environment and our beauty. There is a video by Louis Schwartzberg that's called Gratitude, and it's narrated by an older gentleman. I'm not even going to be able to say his name right now, but this video will it's really just time-lapse photography and some narration by a thoughtful, philosophical older gentleman that narrates it, and it is Well, it will probably bring you to tears because it's just so amazing, and it will cause you to think about all of the things that we have to be grateful for, and the beauty and awe that's around us, and the opportunity that we have just to soak it up and take it in. I'm the kind of person that I have a swing in my front yard, a people bench swing, and I'll sit there for sometimes an hour at a time, and oftentimes I think it feels like it's not a great use of time, but it is, because it fills me up. And so whatever it is that fills you up, that's what will bring you joy and bring you happiness. So that's what I have for you this evening. I will be here for questions and answers. I am available anytime anybody wants to just visit about thoughts around kindness or thinking positive or gratitude work or relationships or wonder and awe. I just encourage you to be thoughtful about your own happiness and joy, and know that only you can make a difference with your own happiness and joy. Oftentimes we're looking for someone else, like your husband or your kids or your neighbor or your doctor or somebody else, but it's right here and it's right here. And so it's really up to you to find your own joy and your own happiness. And I choose joy and I choose happiness, and I hope you will too.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Stephanie Gliniani, MOCA's Community Support Program Manager, and I'm so glad that you could all join us this evening. We hope that you have enjoyed MOCA's Living Well, Finding Joy program. I'd like to thank Carla Heater so much for sharing these strategies of finding joy with our community of ovarian cancer survivors, caregivers, and loved ones. We will be joining Carla live in a little bit for a Q&A session. So if you have any questions for her, you can send them. There's a chat box or a question box on your computer or mobile device. It's anonymous, so send any questions that you have for her. So I will join her on. I have a couple questions to start off with, and please limit the questions to the presentation or the subject of finding joy. So we will be joined by Carla in a second. Carla, thank you so much for being with us tonight.
Oh, happy to be here. Thank you.
Good. Turn my volume up. Thank you. So just to start off with, I know that our audience is a little curious or just really interested to hear how long you have been an ovarian cancer survivor and what stage you were diagnosed at.
Yeah, I am actually a survivor of 22, almost 23 years. I was diagnosed in the summer of 1997 when I was 38 years old. And I actually was diagnosed with ovarian and uterine cancer, and the uterine cancer actually gave me the symptoms that probably saved my life.
Okay.
Both the uterine and ovarian cancer were both stage 1. The ovarian cancer was totally encapsulated, and the uterine cancer was as well. I did have a positive cytology wash, so I had 6 rounds of Taxol and cisplatin, and again, that was 22 years ago.
Wow, that is amazing. So what were your symptoms, if you don't mind me asking?
No, I don't mind at all. I had a lot of discomfort, like I was menstruating all the time.
Okay.
I had a discharge that was unusual. I had bloating, and I had a lot of indigestion or heartburn that I didn't realize was related to that. But I think they're pretty classic ovarian cancer symptoms, but didn't realize at the time. Ironically, 8 months after my surgery and my chemo, my mother was diagnosed with ovarian cancer as well.
Wow, that is amazing.
Yeah.
Wow, amazing. I mean, that's why we work so hard, and everyone does, to share the symptoms of ovarian cancer. So
exactly.
Thank you. Thank you for that.
Sure.
So in regards to these strategies, when you were diagnosed, were these available, or did you just learn these and develop these over time?
You know, a lot of these tools, I think a lot of us have known them, but haven't realized that they're scientifically based or that they've been proven to be to make a difference in our life. I have always been a very positive, outgoing, sort of enthusiastic person, almost to a fault. I mean, people would say when I had cancer, well, if anybody can beat it, you can, because you're like the most positive person. And so I've always been somebody who was really, really positive.
Yeah.
But when we lost the two physicians is when we sort of started digging in deep and learning resilience tools, and how can we know if somebody's happy or not, and what can we do in our own lives to be sure that we don't get to that place.
Absolutely. That's amazing, Carla. And we couldn't thank you enough for sharing these tools and strategies that you have learned over the years. It's phenomenal. I'm just checking to see if we have any questions. We do have a comment. Your story is powerful. Thank you for sharing. So thank you for
Thank
Carla for
you.
that.
Thanks.
We'll see if any more questions kind of come in, but I'm thinking for people really just in a rut right now, how can these help? How, we're going through a lot in this world, in this moment, we're all at home. How can we use these tools to the best that we can? Or do you have any advice, I guess, for anyone? Yeah.
I do, and I think I said it in the presentation too, is really it's up to you.
Yep.
We oftentimes are looking for our spouse or our neighbor or our daughter or someone else to sort of make our happiness or bring it through the front door.
Yep.
And so we have to work on that. We have to be the one that says, you know what can I do for somebody today that's really nice? Or what,
Yeah.
have I practiced my 3 good things? Or who really does need to hear from me in terms of a gratitude letter? So if we really actually do these things, and I also want to say that when we started learning about these things after we lost the docs, a lot of our physicians were using these tools as prescriptions for folks who would come in and say, I'm a little depressed, or I actually have one of my very good friends whose mother was dealing with vertigo, which is when you feel dizzy.
Yep.
And she went to her doc, who is a friend of mine, and he asked her to do the 3 good things tool, and found out and realized that made a difference with her vertigo, because she started
Okay.
focusing on the positive. And they together sort of realized that when she was having vertigo is when she would, one of the kids was in trouble, or the daughters weren't getting
Sure.
along, or the grandson was, or whatever. So focusing on the positive can really make a difference. But I think the most important thing I can share with people is that it really is up to you. If you are feeling down or blue, or even some depression that feels a little more serious, first and foremost, talk to your doctor about that. I think that's a
Yep.
really important thing to say, and know that these tools do make a difference. I think when we say, doing random acts of kindness is a good thing, people are like, well, of course, we all know that it's good to do something
Right.
nice for
Right.
somebody. But if you know that it's been scientifically proven to make you happier, that's really about getting outside and beyond ourselves and doing things for other people. And I personally, there's nothing more fulfilling for me than to make somebody else happy. And that in
Absolutely.
turn makes me happy.
Yeah, and that's a great reminder as well. We did have another question that, it's hard to find joy right now. Do you practice these tools every day? So that was another question.
I do. I do.
Okay.
As I just said, the random acts of kindness one is my favorite, because I can think of things all day long to do for people. You know what I'm saying? That's something
Yep.
that comes naturally to me. Like if I hear somebody talking about a need or something that's special to them, I almost always sort of store that away. And so I do practice these things. We right now in our community are about to launch the 3 good things tool, where we send out a text at night. People sign up, and then we send a text every night for two weeks, to ask people to do 3 good things, and then they text it back to us. So we do it as an entire community. So we
Okay.
decided to do that right now, because we think people need that right now in a pretty big way. The other thing
Absolutely.
I would really encourage you to do is to seek out some good reading. We have time now, and so focus on some things that will be helpful to you. This is not a time, though, that I would suggest that people dig in and do that really, really deep work, just because, especially if we're isolated, you can't see sometimes your physician or a counselor or a therapist as frequently as you'd want right now. So these are pretty simple tools that I think will make a difference in your life, and you can choose 1 or 2 of them, or you can do all of them.
Yep.
I also would really encourage you to all 3 of I don't know if I mentioned 3 videos or 2 tonight, but there's some really great stuff out there for you to look at online that's really makes you feel good, and is helpful as well.
Absolutely. And, I'll say at this time, during this time, especially, and all times, it's never a bad idea too to seek, the telehealth. I mean, we can be doing things, a therapist or doctor, if you're really dealing with a lot as well, that's an option to talk to someone, about those kind of things too. So telehealth is a really good thing, like you had said, mentioning reaching out to someone if you need to.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, go ahead.
As is medication, because sometimes when we talk about just being blue, that's one thing.
Yep.
Being depressed sometimes can be a very much more serious issue. I mentioned earlier that I have had people in my life who have dealt with very serious depression, and so I understand that. I know what that looks like, and how
Right.
difficult that can be, and sometimes how hard that can be to rise
Yep.
out of that. And so
Yep.
if indeed you are more than just blue, or need a little bit of a happiness jolt, that you might need to seek
Seeking
medical
professional.
help as well. Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
Another question, recurrence obviously is a high, is high stress within our community. Someone had reached out about worrying about a reoccurrence. Are there tips that you have on how to focus on happiness during that time?
Again, I think it's really the same thing, to focus on the positive. And, I remember when I say I'm 22 years out of that diagnosis, this probably isn't very hopeful, but you always still, when you've had a cancer diagnosis, it's always in the back of your mind. I always think, well, I'm that far away from a
Yep.
diagnosis that probably I should be good, but it's something that I think never leaves us when we've actually had
Yep.
I also want to say that worry is of no value. Worry doesn't change things. It doesn't change an outcome. It doesn't make
Yep.
us feel better. So if we're doing things for others, if we're focusing on the positive, if we're expressing gratitude, if we're socially connected and have that good core group of people in our life, that will be helpful.
Yep.
And But I do understand that whole feeling of like, is
Yes.
it is it going to come back, and when am I safe, and all of those things.
Yeah. So thinking about, I guess, that piece is kind of the resiliency piece. So, we want to be focused on happiness, but what can you say then in that point of like, this is a long haul. This is 20 years that you're trying to get through this, and ups and downs and appointments. What do you say to that person in the resiliency piece of, you're in it for the long haul. This is a part of your life.
Yeah, yes. Well, and then, like I said, with resiliency, it's sort of like weightlifting. It's something we need to work on daily, all the time.
Yep.
And so when I mentioned, find yourself some good videos that are uplifting on YouTube, and find some good books that make you feel good, and again, be socially connected so that you have that
Yep.
group of people that are supporting you, and what have you. To that end, sometimes people are I feel like I could write a book about what the dumb things are, or the silly things people say, because people don't know what to say when you're battling cancer, and sometimes
Yep.
they say the most wrong things that they could say. But if you, again, I really think that it's a work in progress. It's like getting fit or bodybuilding. It's something we need to do on a regular basis. It's not, we're never just there. Like,
Yep.
okay, now I'm resilient, or now I know how to deal with this. And happiness is the same way. We might think, this morning I was really happy, and then by noon I didn't feel so happy. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So
Yep.
so it's a work in progress.
Absolutely. Yeah. So
Mhm.
what inspires you to keep going?
Uh, there's a lot of things that inspire me to keep going. I have a strong faith, which I've sort of mentioned that, which is really, really important to me. I'm a doer, and I'm a community person, and I'm an involved kind of person. I before cancer was the person who felt like there was never enough time in the day to do all the things I want to do. And
Yep.
can you imagine, after cancer, it feels even more that way. And
Yep.
so I have so many things in my life that I want to do and look forward to doing. I've done a vast amount of travel, and I love to travel. I have an amazing spouse. I was never blessed with children, but I have My sister's my best friend, and so I guess I just feel like there's so much that I want to do. And I think we all feel that way, that there's so much living that we want to do. And that's what keeps me going. It's interesting because I remember I wrote a little book called The Elemental P's of Surviving Cancer, and talked about the things that I changed in my life after my diagnosis. Like I quit drinking pop, and just a variety of things.
Yeah.
And it's amazing, the further away you get from a diagnosis, how you kind of forget about those things, because there are a lot of things that I know and that we know that we should do or could do that contribute to better health, that we don't always,
Absolutely. Yeah.
continue to do. But yeah.
Yep.
So I think what keeps me going too, again, is that whole positivity thing. I want to make a difference. I want to leave a mark. I want to, I don't want people to say, oh, she was so busy or she worked so hard. I want people to say, wow, she really made a difference in our community, or she left a mark in my heart, or
Yeah.
those kinds of things. And so I try to live that kind of life. I'm sort of a servant at heart, and that's what sort of fuels my fire.
That's amazing. Yeah, thank you. I mean, that's an amazing
Sure.
quality, and that definitely inspires me. I think we have another question. How can I help friends who don't have resiliency?
Well, you can share these tools with them, and you can just just by letting people know, like whether or not people who are listening, folks who are listening tonight, do these things or not. You at least now have these tools. You know that random acts of kindness are scientifically proven to make a difference. You know that 3 good things can make you happier for 6 months, and so I think just sharing what you know with other people. The 3 good things, if you start doing it with your daughter or your mom or your best friend or your spouse, that's something that you have in common. It's a language that you'll always have. It's like I said, I still have friends that say to me when I mention something, they'll say, well, is that one of your 3 good things? And I'll be, yeah, that is one of my 3 good things. And so I think that's how we can help people. And I talked about those people who are negative, that kind of stink the whole room up when they come in, and those people are oftentimes the hardest to convince. I also want to give them a little slack, because they're probably negative or not very positive for a reason. They've maybe had difficult things happen in their life, and so I don't want to be too hard on them. But I think that we have a choice to head down a new road. If we've been negative or we've been blue, we have the choice to take
Yep.
a new road.
Absolutely. Yep. And when you mentioned about sharing this with other people, this webinar it's being recorded right now, so it will be available on our website. So people can actually take then the link and say,
Right.
here, you watch this video, here's what we can do.
Yeah.
So yeah, absolutely. Are there any other, before we get going, any other words of wisdom or sites that we can take with us?
Well, I'll share a couple of authors. Sean Achor, Achor. You probably saw his name on as quote the one who quoted that 90% of happiness is. It was early in my presentation. So Sean Achor, Achor, has some really great writings about happiness and that kind of thing. I also really like Brene Brown's work. I've done
Yeah.
a lot of Brene Brown's. I started work with her book called Daring Greatly, and I've done Rising Strong, and I've done some of the Brene Brown weekends, and those are great weekends and great opportunities as well. There are so many things out there to help us on our journey to happiness, but so we just need to sort of figure out what fits for us and try some of those things. I feel like I can't emphasize enough how important it is for us to do that for ourselves, because again, it's so easy for us to say, well, my husband doesn't do this, or my daughter doesn't come around enough, or now I have cancer, or whatever it is, and we figure out all kinds of ways not to find happiness. So I want to just encourage people to find out all the ways to find happiness.
Absolutely. Yes. Thank you so much for that. And, it is great. Like I mentioned before, I just want to plug this too, that people are still seeing, if it is deeper than this, then you're having a hard time. You can seek professional help. People are still doing telemedicine. And so these are amazing tools. I just want to reach out to the people who might need a little extra more too. So I want to thank you so much for sharing these tools with all of our community. And I'm so glad that this is being recorded so we can have this and use this in the future as well. And so we will close it up right now. So thank you again, Carla. I do want to mention to everyone watching, of course, this is a time for all of us to stay connected. And we have 2 things next week. We have 2 virtual support groups on Tuesday, the 14th. We have our East Metro group, and the 16th is our MOCA Connection support group. So we will be meeting virtually for those, and our MOCA mentors are available as well for phone or email. I'm available if anyone needs anything. So please don't hesitate to reach out. You can go on our website, mnovarian.org, or please feel free to reach out to me personally, and I can share more information about our support programs in any way to help you during this time. So we hope you enjoyed the program tonight, and I hope everyone stays well and has a wonderful night. So thank you, everyone.